Let's talk about it. If you are frustrated with your dog barking in the house, barking out the window, barking at you, I want to talk to you about how to deal with that and work through that to get your dog on track to not barking. My name is Pamela Brown with Down for Paws Dog Training. We provide you with simple solutions to help transform your dog's behavior with ease. So let's jump right into it. And the reason why I'm doing this live today is because I've been getting tons of calls about dogs barking. And usually, this is a time of year I get those increase in calls. And so, I want to talk to you about the five different types of barking so you can determine which one of his the type of barking your dog is doing, and also how to navigate working through that. So let's just jump right into it. So again, there are five different types of barking. I'm going to quickly go through them, and then I'm going to give you some tips on how to work through that. So the first one is boredom barking, right? And so essentially what that is just what it sounds like. Your dog may be barking because they're bored. So a lot of folks are working from home these days. You may be on phone calls, Zoom calls, whatever like that. Your dog's just like walking around a house and things like such. They don't have anything to do. So they just end up barking because they're bored. So it's very important if you're working from home or just in general, make sure your dog has things to do, whether you give them a chew bone. I love using snuffle mats and things of such so they can search for treats. So you want to make sure you keep them engaged so they're not bored and in return they start barking. Number two, separation anxiety is a reason why your dog may bark. And so separation anxiety is just when your dog is can be anxious or scared being away from you when you sometimes it doesn't even have to be you leaving a house. You could be going to the bathroom, but either way they bark because they have separation anxiety. So for separation anxiety, that's something you definitely want to reach out to a trainer like myself, because there's certain training things that you're going to need to do to tackle that. But until you reach out to someone like myself to kind of navigate that, you want to be sure not to leave your dog home alone, because you don't want to go ahead and keep on triggering them, send them into that spiral of barking and things of such. So your best bet is to keep them with you and then reach out to a trainer like myself so we can help navigate that. One of the common ones that I hear about all the time is the barrier frustration barking. So what that is ideally if your dog's behind a fence or something like that, that's a barrier that's cutting them off from what they're trying to see, do, or whatever. So because that barrier is there, they start to bark and they get frustrated because they can't get through. So I see this a lot, like I said, if you have a fence and your dog's at the fence, but also if you have a gated area in your house and your dog's behind that and they want to kind of get to you, you'll see that barrier frustration barking as well. So if your dog is barking because they're outside at the fence and things like that, I tell folks what you want to do. One is, if your dog doesn't have a solid recall, you can always work on that. But also, you don't want to leave your dog outside too long. So ideally, when they do go outside, they're running around and things of such. But then as people walk by or, they get bored, again, they're at that fence barking. So put a time limit on amount of time your dog's outside. Doesn't mean they can't go back out, but you don't want them practicing that behavior. Also, having them outside at the times of day where it's less likely for them to see other people or dogs, so they're not at that gate barking and stuff like that. And I always say, remember, even though they're in the backyard running around, they need something to do as well. So maybe giving them something to chew on, giving them a ball so they're not like at the gate barking because they're frustrated. Indoors, same thing, barrier frustration. You can not leave your dog behind that barrier so long, keep them with you, and things of such. The next one, number four, demand barking. I see this a lot, especially with folks working from home. Demand barking is just what it sounds like. Your dog's barking at you because they want something. And we all know, right? It usually happens when we're on a call and things like that. We're like, why now? But that's what that is. So the most important thing about demand barking, and I know we all do it, as soon as our dog barks, we're like, what? What do you need? You don't want to do that because in your dog's mind, it's like, ooh, the bark worked. I'm going to keep on barking because that's how I indicate I need something. With demand barking, you want to make sure that you ignore your dog when they're barking. The minute they stay quiet for a second or two, then you turn. I'm like, okay, what do you want? Because at that point, you're rewarding them for being quiet and not for the bark. And then over time, what they learn is like, oh, when I was quiet, mom or dad or whoever listened to me and not when I bark, and they'll just start to come up to you and kind of look instead of barking. And then you can go ahead and give them what they need and such. But just remember, it does take some time. It's not like, you're going to do this right away, but over time, practicing, you should start to see them coming up to you and say, also, last one, it kind of goes along with barrier frustration is the watchdog barking. Not so much defense, even though it can happen that way, but your dog barking out the window. I have been getting tons of calls about this. And just know, I always say when it's the nicer weather outside, more people outside than it is in the winter, more dogs and such. And so the dogs are really excited. They're at the window. We call it watchdog barking, just looking and waiting and barking. So first things first, we want to take preventative measures. If you can close the blinds so they're not running up to the window, perfect. Do that. If you can't close the blinds, again, preventative measures, we want to make sure if there's a time of day, I always tell people early in the morning, late in the evening, when people are going to work and coming home, try to keep your dog away from that location of the window they're running up to, whether they're going in the backyard during that time. You give them something to play with so they're not like fixated on the barking out the window. Next, as far as training wise, you want to, again, work on training your dog to come when called. I tell folks that are working from home, if you're working from home, or even if you're not, you want to keep like a little Chex Mix full of treats close by. And randomly throughout the day, what you want to do is call your dog to you and give them a treat. The reason why your dog's not coming now, because they come to you and they're like, what am I getting for it? But the more you reward them for coming to you, when you do need them to come from that watchdog barking or where they're barking at, they will come to you because they know they're getting something. I heard too, like, oh, well, we got past that point, the dog comes, but they go right back. Little tip, if you, instead of giving them the treat, just toss it on the floor, let them search for it, because by that time, whatever's at the window is gonna, go by. So essentially, preventative measures, blocking off the access to the window, working on that recall, and you'll start to see your dog will come to you quicker. And you'll start to get the pattern of when people are out and things of such, and things will start to dwindle down. But just to recap, because again, barking is not just barking. There's 5 different types: the boredom barking, separation anxiety, barrier frustration, demand barking, and watchdog barking. So you want to figure out which one your dog's doing first. They could be doing one or all, but then the tips I spoke about today, you want to apply those to reduce it and start to train so things are, kind of up and up. But other than that, I hope you gain some good insight into barking, and you're going to start some barking training today. But I will see you next week with another great topic. Bye.